Here.
Dave Torgerson.
Here.
You have quorum, sir.
We have five. Okay. Agenda's before you. Any additions, corrections, questions? Seeing none, we'll accept it with unanimous consent. And then we have the consent agenda. Anything we want to take out and discuss?
Move to accept.
Motion made by Laraway to accept the consent agenda as written. Is there a second? Seconded by CUNY. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Motion carries. All right. Only thing I have today is Tim alerted me to the fact that our phantom gypsy pavers have been back again. And those pavers that came and dumped all the tar into people's on our roads, and then
And where are they back at?
well, they came here and they were at the out of bounds, and then they were at whose house? Right across from Eberhardt's. John Gearhart's house. And what their scam is, and it's what we found out, is that they come around with a loaded tar and say, hey, we did a job and we have this much left over. We'll do your whole yard or your driveway for X amount of dollars. And then after they get about 2/3 through, they run out of tar. So they have to go get more, which costs you more than they said they were gonna do it for. So, Tim's alert on that. The only challenge we had with all that is, of course, the sheriff's department, the sheriff's deputy was on it, but now that doesn't exist anymore. So an alert to keep alert. Tell all your neighbors, tell those guys to move on down the road and then call the office so that we can track them. Figure out what's gonna go. But good job for Tim because he caught them and then chased one of them down and they kind of just all of a sudden disappeared. But you got some information.
I did.
So, cause we had a run around with them last year. They were pretty obnoxious. Yeah, you did. All right, so that's done. That's all I have. So it's up to you, Mr. Manager.
We submitted our MDOT Category B application on the 11th, day before the deadline for MDOT, which was 12/5. A copy of the final estimate from Rowe was included in your packet. Around 387, I want to say off the top of my head. So the Category B project would cover half of those construction costs, and that includes the 4 failed culverts we're looking to replace. It does not cover design and construction engineering on the report. So total project wise, it's probably more like a 40-60 cost split, but it's a 50-50 on construction is what we're going for. Typically, the state announces who they're gonna award around Labor Day, because it's for their next fiscal year. So this would be an April 26 project is what I put on our application. While the Michigan House of Representatives and the Senate are not really in session over the summer, more than just a handful of days, 2 pieces of legislation were introduced that I want to bring your attention to. The first is House Bill 4583. It would restrict all property tax millage elections, including renewals of existing millages, to only the November election date. So they want to push them out to the general election date on November. I don't believe it's restrictive to just the even years in November. But
Any year.
just any November. So right now by law, we have May, August, and November are the election dates in Michigan. So and the next one, which I would I think we should probably oppose and make known that we're in opposition to, is House Bill 4597. It would make the process of enacting local speed limits needlessly cumbersome. Part of the issue is before you could change a local speed limit, you have to have a sign off by your PD. If you don't have PD, you have to have the sheriff do it. And, you know, I think we're probably the best judge of what our speed limit should be in our community. So our summer newsletter went out to the printers last week. It is available on our website. If you go to the Your Government tab on the top of the page in the drop-down menu, it is the most bottom one. It says current newsletter. So read it before you can buy it type deal. We're right around $5,000 for fireworks right now. Our goal, I think, is like 7,500 to match that 50% of our $15,000 contract. Talked to Aaron DeScent, city manager of Mount Pleasant. Their city commission will be looking at their police coverage contract next Monday's meeting, the 23rd. Planning Commission did meet last week and they identified what they want to do for the permit process for sheds on vacant lots. They did not want to do any type of additional design requirements. Said, you know, if it's good enough on a property with a home, it should be good enough on a vacant lot, but what they want is some caveats on the application that a person would have to sign off in a way that could potentially, if they are in violation, revoke the shed on the vacant lot. So you can't have any type of utility service, including electricity, can be only used for storage. Heavy emphasis that you cannot stay in it overnight. You cannot camp on the property overnight. Placement of the shed would require the grassy areas of the parcel be mowed per our blight ordinance, because now you have a structure on the parcel. And failure to follow the conditions of the permit may result in the permit being revoked and the shed being forced to be removed from the property. I was hoping to get it done this week, but I've not had a chance because a little bit occupied this afternoon with some code enforcement stuff I was doing. And I'm off the rest of this week, which segues nicely into my next slide. Today is June the 17th. I will be gone Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of this week, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of the next week. Turning Thursday, Friday, here the whole following week for fireworks, and then I am gone the week of the 7th. I will be here, but in Lansing the day of the 15th, which is right now when our next regularly scheduled meeting is, but I think that might be a topic of discussion a little bit later on the agenda. That is all I have for you folks tonight on this.
So the shed, let me get this straight, 10 by 20, it can be 10 by 20. Depending on the size.
It could be 10 by 12, 120 if it's a half acre or less, or it could be 12 by 20, 240 square feet
Yeah.
for normal size.
Normal size.
Yeah.
And they had, how did they define shed?
It's defined in our ordinance.
They didn't mess with that?
No. No, it's a accessory structure used for storage purposes.
So it has to be mobile. You have to be able to
Yeah,
pick it
if
up.
that's in
move
there, that
it.
it can't be.
Right,
know,
you can't be, you can't put on a pole barn structure.
Yeah, you can't put it on a foundation, you can't put it on a wrap wall. It's gotta be a skid type or something you can move.
Okay,
I like their recommendations, that they, there's no design, but it's got to be. No water, no living in it, and you can lose your spot if you don't, so I think they covered it. I was expecting design things, but I don't have a problem after I started thinking about it. I don't know if the rest of you guys do. or not.
Yeah, we discussed it, there just isn't any design elements, in the other one, and to keep, things uniform.
Right.
It kind of makes sense to just, go by our already approved and set guidelines. So it doesn't matter if there's a house there or not, or a shed there, it should be same criteria as,
Right. And I think the enforcement, you start getting into different designs and how far do you go out on designs, No, I disagree, that's not the design I would have gone and, so I don't see a problem with it at all. What's the rationale for no power?
They feel that would probably make it more enticing for someone to stay or camp there. And we talked about that.
Yeah, we
at
discussed that
planning
here
commission,
too, so.
that you can bring a Jackery and, a portable battery power supply to your property and use it. Take it home, that's totally acceptable.
Or generator, as long as it's not.
Not allowed, yeah.
disturbing.
Like we've camped on powerless sites and used Jackery and, they're fantastic. You can do all that stuff with that, so.
I would rather see power rather than a generator running. I think a generator would cause more problems. I mean, if they're gonna camp in there, they're gonna camp in there whether they have power. Like you said, you could have a generator, but. Like my lake lot, for example, I already have power there. That's why I asked, like, I'm not gonna take a generator and put a shed on my lake lot there.
Well, I think
it's a long golf course.
I'm talking like 120 amp circuit for your whole shed, so you can maybe have a fridge in there and a light.
Well, I don't think anything in the way that.
Bed in there and camping.
Don't believe there's anything in the ordinance that would preclude you from running it to an outside box. And running an extension cord into the shed. once you run the power to in the shed itself, I think that makes it a little bit more cumbersome to move, because now you've got. The power,
Well, that's not true at all. I mean, it's very easy to disconnect a
Sure.
power line and move it. I think the biggest point, and we discussed it here, and that was discussed, we'll talk about it, and then at the planning meeting, we're discussing that that's just going to, you're gonna have people that are gonna camp out there occasionally anyways. It's just simply gonna happen if we allow them to have buildings there. Not everybody will, but it will happen.
Somebody pushed.
And the sheds are under the concept that it's for storage, so you can keep your mower there to maintain your property, you can leave a kayak there if that's what you're doing. And gives you some security so that people aren't just walking up with stuff left on a vacant lot. If you, start putting, power there and they can have a refrigerator that they can fill with beer, the likelihood of that, being used for a weekend campground significantly will increase. I have power at my shed that was there prior, but if that's all I had on that lot, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I have a shed with power across the street. I don't camp in it. I have
yeah.
a light though, so if I go in there at night, I can turn the light on.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, to have like, to set, it's not just like, if it's a vacant lot, they're gonna have to have a meter set. You're gonna have to have a service set, like, it's not like it's a cheap thing. I mean, it'd be.
I'm personally not opposed to it. I'm just regurgitating what was discussed and stated prior,
What happens if we ask them that they have to have a padlock on the outside of their shed and it has to be locked every night? So that way, somebody goes by, you could have a flashlight, oh, there is a padlock and it's locked on the outside, not on the inside, so you'd be sleeping in there, but an outside padlock to show.
I mean, if you get busted camping in it, you're gonna lose your shed permit, and you're gonna lose your whole
Right.
shed, power or not, it's gotta go.
Well, see, I was thinking you add the power to it and you take it, put the padlock on the
Well,
outside.
yeah, but I mean, either case, who are we gonna have going and inspecting these every night on every holiday weekend and such,
You want another side.
Hey, I mean,
You're right, I know, that's a tough part of
Yeah.
it. You know,
yeah, and like I said, I mean, it is going to occasionally happen,
yeah, we hope not, but you're right,
Right,
if
yeah.
everybody, if somebody's gonna push the limit. Try to stay in there too.
Power does make things convenient. I don't disagree with you at all, Brent, but like, what's the next thing that we're gonna, do, as far as that goes, cause, I'm waiting, cause now that they can have sheds and stuff, I'm waiting for people to start asking, well, why can't we have a camper for a weekend if our taxes are paid, we're maintaining the property, and, so. Just, it's a can of worms kind of,
The original thing was just to have someplace to store stuff.
right?
That was the original idea.
Yeah, that way people won't have to haul their lawn equipment.
But it
and
is
stuff.
kind of a slippery slope because the next logical question is gonna be, why can't I put a trailer on there?
Yeah.
We got power.
Yeah. It's got RV plugs on the side of the shed.
Yeah, so, okay. Anything else?
Can I ask, on the Mount Pleasant Police Department, okay? Was that a big surprise to you about the $1 a month they come in? I think it was.
it was.
I mean, were they talking less or didn't they ever talk money, Tim, that week?
The only thing that they provided was kind of the personnel dynamic breakdown on the cost component side of the deal. So
I mean, cause that was a shock.
it definitely
You
is
know.
gonna be when it comes to you, so.
Yeah. Well, they've got the leverage.
Yeah,
All right. Currently. Okay. All right, anything from the LIPOA?
I will say, I had a conversation with Guy Savin last week. George was on vacation and. After the lake committee meeting, they went over to Lucky's to look at the property. And Lucky decided he wanted. The holding cell put in a different location. It's a location that's going to require removal of vegetation to make it work. So Guy sent over a proposal to George today from someone to do the forestry mulching for like $6,500 for this area. That'd be an additional cost. And also, Guy did want to talk about the area in the permit for the dredging activity versus the conversation that the Lake Committee had. That area to the north of Playa Park wasn't part of the hydraulic dredging permit that was obtained. And looking at the map that was part of the permit, I don't think we're gonna be out enough into the river in front of Riviera Park, capture the whole mound that's out there right now. And he thinks what happened was when the permit was applied for, the estimates and drawings that he had submitted to the LIPOA in 2023 were just cut and pasted out of the application, and it wasn't tailored to the discussions that were had. So we'll see where that is.
I'll think of vegetation, just like shrubs and stuff.
It's all out of like 8-10 foot bushes throughout there, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm more worried about it. Can't go as far as we want to go. That makes that's a big problem, isn't it?
Big problem in my opinion.
Yeah. You know, we said we were gonna resolve that problem. We're not resolving the problem.
What, so where does it lie? Who cut and pasted it? We don't know. I mean, when we did the permit, it was pretty plain, but then they didn't take the time to redo it.
Can we get a revised one?
I don't know. So far, all the permitting of the project's been handled by the association.
Well, that brings up two questions. One is, can we get the permit revised? And
If we-
two, he made the bid based on
The permit,
the permit
yeah,
prior to. Right? I mean, he made it including Playa Park.
no, he did it based on the permit.
Okay.
So he knew there was something wrong with
You know, I think from my conversation with him is. Oh, where? Lincoln River Restoration. They're doing. Repeats, I don't know if I still have it on here. Don't think I still have the RFP. I do not. I know it's not anymore.
What I'm trying to get to though is he says 11,000 yards, is it, or 12,000 that were taken out?
About 12,
Where'd that number come from?
the permit application. I can bring it back, hang on.
Just trying to write down how that got screwed up.
Now there's two holes in the sand.
But he took the samples from outside of the permit area and they approved those samples that he sent in to the state. Right? Cause he had to take 40 or 50 samples. Soil samples. Or 10.
So. There we go.
Oh, we were afraid they was gonna have to do more.
So Savin's proposal. It was approved. That is the dredging map of the project. Right there.
Okay, so that's what Savin had to work with?
That is what Savin submitted for their bid based on the permit that was part of the RFP. And the conversation for those at the Lake Committee meeting focused a lot on this area. Up here,
Right.
that's outside their dredge area. And I can tell you from doing it, that island's right about here. Okay. Right here. So,
Well, let me ask this.
That has to be a revision.
Yeah. And
Cause
really,
he did leave the 10 feet, it looks like. You know.
pretty close.
10 feet.
Yeah.
yeah,
Right up in here.
yep, yep. But this council really can't do anything. It has to be
Lake Committee.
Lake Committee.
No, we should, everybody should know what we're facing.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
Because it's not gonna be done for the same price if we include what we're gonna do.
right.
Do you have another picture?
Of. Like the bid,
Yeah, like what was actually on the bid, what it was supposed to be?
that was the bid, that was what he submitted. Hang on, let me find the. That's Birch Bay.
I mean, I would think that 12,000 yards would be 12,000 yards regardless of how big a circle you draw in it. Right? I know we probably want a change order or something, but. Maybe we need to schedule an emergency meeting on that, figure it out.
It's your big.
We're gonna have a meeting to approve the change order if you're to do the,
Who got the price, Savin on the mulching?
yeah.
How big's the holding cell? Do you remember off the top of your head?
3 acres. Where is not how much?
So that already constitutes a change order there. Money. That's 6,500 more.
I apologize for trying to do it this way, but. We took all the stuff off, but it's still saved in. Like the back end of our website, so I just have to go and make the link active and put it back on there, so.
Okay.
Yeah, you can see that. What I had drawn. Is different. From what,
That is.
yeah. Specifically down in this area, like that. That's what I drew.
See, I thought that was the one that they had.
Yeah, that is not what got submitted. Cause it went off. Permit application, a little permit from Eagle, which shows this as mechanical, not hydraulic.
Right,
This is what. Was hydraulic.
Didn't Savin already said he thought he might have to do, he couldn't do hydraulic up there?
Well, I think George and I said that too.
Yeah, George was the one that up here. And. So,
That's the only thing we can do, I guess. is
Yeah.
to revise the permit.
if we need to. You know,
if we need to.
remember the committee. Made George point of contact on this project, not me.
I mean, that's not like a highly accurate like GPS drawing, you know, it's a illustration, it's a sketch. I mean, I would hope that. Like, that's what I was getting at, 12,000 yards is 12,000 yards. I mean, if you're not you gotta go 10 feet over to take out your 12,000 yards, I mean, that's. That's pretty small, I would think that.
Yeah.
You
I hope
never
so.
know, you never
Yeah.
know,
You know,
I think we do need to schedule a meeting. and
he
figure
did
out
want
how.
to really sell that, hey, can we do the whole project thing again?
Again.
Okay. Well, that's for another time. So that's it then from the whole. Okay, public hearing for resolution 2507. General appropriations. Let's see, right page here. Okay, so public hearing is open at 7:06. Mr. Wolf.
All right, at the end of the fiscal year. We are July 1 fiscal year, so this is our budget night. Up before you is what is in the budget document that's in your packet. It's also been on our website for a while now. This has been reviewed by the finance committee. Finance committee signed off on everything you're about to hear for tonight. Yeah, I'm gonna cover this so that it also deals with the first item under existing business, which is our budget amendments for the current fiscal year that is ending on June 30th. So for the current fiscal year, we are projecting a general fund deficit of $26,101. Major streets, 50,791, and local streets, 36,552. Now, that doesn't sound spectacular. But part of the issue on why we have a deficit situation this year is we received a $45,000 grant from the Michigan State Housing Development Authority for our master plan update. We have expended all of that expenses for that project through our target market housing analysis, which was $45,000, which is what the grant covers. They will not release said funds until the master plan update is finished, which will be in this fiscal year, upcoming in July. So if we were to just move all of the MISTA expenses and money into the same fiscal year, this year would have had a almost $19,000 surplus in the general fund. Local, major streets and local street, different issue. Those are all tied to the capital improvement projects that we did. That brings forth the upcoming fiscal year. They projected general fund deficit of $43,138. Why is that, you may ask? Well, we have $50,000 included in the budget to pay for policing this year, this upcoming year and the following, because for those of you who've been around the block for a few years, legally you're required to show your previous year, your current year, and your next year. We have always went out an extra year, so you get the two previous, the current, what's coming up, and then we project out that next year. So when you go back to look at this, you're seeing last year, this year, upcoming year, and the following year. So you're seeing a very healthy, long snapshot of our financial situation. And my point in bringing it up to you this way was very simple, that structurally, there isn't a issue with our finances. The general fund is tied to a MISTA grant when we receive it, and paying for policing. Those are services that we are not mandated to do. And that in the past, we have had a millage covering that contract with the sheriff's department. We're paying for it right now out of general fund. These are conversations we have to have with the community moving forward on, is this a service you want us to continue? And if so, what do you want that service to look like? And how do you think that service should be paid for? Our streets, you know, we did a $300,000 resurfacing of Clubhouse Drive and bought a new tractor. So that covers both major and local for this current fiscal year. And in the next fiscal year, the Queensway resurfacing project, that was that MDOT grant that we applied for, has a $400,000 price tag put in the budget. So over $200,000 in expenses right there. And we are working on a maintenance plan to have it peer reviewed for the local streets so that we can again engage our community and say, this is where we're at for surface treatments on our 18+ miles of local streets. These are the surface treatments available to us, and this is what it would cost to go down these roads. What do you want us to do? Because as you can see, for 18+ miles of streets, we have a operating revenue of about $140,000, $135,000, $140,000. It doesn't cover a lot, and it doesn't cover anything near what is required to maintain a street network of that size at any level of satisfactory condition for any long period of time. So, the budget does show that we are closing out the 207 fund, which is our sheriff road patrol millage, because hey, don't have sheriff's department anymore. And also, the next year we'll be closing out our sewer fund because the council has been using the $4,500 transfer that you're allowed to do every year to kind of end that fund in light of the sewer pressures you're seeing north and east of us. When you get that off our books. Our capital improvement plan for the coming fiscal year. We gotta paint yellow and white lines, that costs about 12 grand, fun stuff. Some technology replacement, just routine stuff. We're gonna replace these chairs that everybody hates. And we're gonna replace those chairs because those are from the building originally, and we're gonna replace the tables. It's time. It's time to give everybody a facelift. There's the study for the street stuff. Doing a sign down DPW, replacing that one that's out by the road with a digital one, so we can do messaging on it. There's the Queensway project. Want to get just a small kind of trailer to put that water tank on that right now is on the back of Jerry's truck. That way we can free up that item of equipment, the bed. There's the river restoration project. Part of losing police coverage, looking at doing a couple of street lights here and there just for security type purposes at some intersections that are more higher traffic. And then the radar sign we have out on Clubhouse is very well received. I've got in this year and in the next year to do another sign each year so we can have some more around the village. Again, hopefully things that we can do that are low cost to help correct some behaviors that I think are getting a little bit fast in terms of not having traffic enforcement in our community. In my opinion, this is the most important slide. It really is. So if you have non-homestead property, these are the 31.3 mils roughly that you pay as a property owner in the village of Lake Isabella. And your village operating tax that you pay is less than 0.8 of a mil and accounts for 2.6% of your total taxes you pay as a property owner in this community. You pay more for the debt for our school district, the medical facilities, your townships. You pay more for iRide. Okay, all those way more than you pay for the operating expenses here. We also have the lake restoration millage and our fire assessment. For the general operations, it's 0.8 of a mil, under that now. One of the things that the finance committee and I talked about was updating our fund balance policy. And these are the numbers reflected from that discussion. Bumping those minimum ending balance numbers up. And what that policy says is, as your chief administrative officer, when I present to you the budget or budget amendments, my end number can't go below those three numbers at the top of the page. You guys are free to do what you want. I can't come to you with a fund balance lower than that when I come to you with a budget. So the proposed budget numbers that we have for this upcoming fiscal year and the following, because remember, we do 2 years out. We're cooking in at over 200% on general fund, 200% on major streets. Again, doing significant capital improvement projects and over 150% still on local streets with those numbers. So again, we're not in a financial situation that is concerning, in my opinion. We have built up fund balance to do certain things at certain times. After we do these major street projects, we'll sit back and build that fund balance up for the next round when we have to do more of it. That's just how we have to do business. The village's state equalized value for the upcoming year is projected to be $152,000,000, 477,800, with a taxable value of 118,000,000 and change. What is very important that I want to highlight to everybody is we are getting that cushion back. So when the economy took a nosedive in 2008 and stayed in a depressed state for several years, that cushion shrunk. And now that you've got that cushion being reestablished, if there is a short 1 or 2 year economic downturn, you're not gonna see, an impact to your taxable value. It'll eat through that cushion because the SEV has to come down first before it hits that TV one. I think we're like 76, 77%, so. We were at one point about 92. And the other thing to think about too, excuse me. In the last 5 years, our equalized value has jumped $50,000,000. It took 20 years for the 50 million prior to go from 50 to 100. It was like 2000 to 2020. To go from 100 to 150 was a 5-year jump. We are growing, we are, seeing that demand for more services from the increase in population and development. And obviously we have a taxable value that I think is above the city of Clare right now. So we are, we are certainly a growing community that is got a lot that we have to plan for and can do yet. How much debt do we have? Well, Uncle Sam's, I don't know, what, $30 trillion in the hole? Or about 247.
Thousand.
No, and that's going down every year. So we had debt when we built this building, we took out a bond issue. When we bought the DPW property, we took out a bond issue, and when we built the salt barn, we took out a loan, a debt issue to do that. We've consolidated all those into one, and then we refinanced that, really at the start of the pandemic and locked in some really killer low rates, which, was great. We paid down some of the debt when we did it, but, we're locked in at an incredibly low rate compared to what the market is today on that debt. You're seeing, our interest payment is, like $5,000 for that this year. That's nothing. So there isn't a prepayment penalty if we want to pay that off sometime before we run the clock out in 2036. But all in all, pretty healthy financial position. The budget document that's in your packet and on our website has the full budget narrative that covers all the financial policies. It has the CIP, it has the line item budget, it has the amendment to the fund balance policy, it has the update to the compensation plan. All that went through the finance committee. And it's about, 41 pages long, give or take. And for those of you who would like to find it on our website. All you ever need to do is go down to your government. And then financial reports. And you have the budget. You have past budgets. You have all of our audits. You can quite literally see where we spent every penny in this organization's history on this page of our website. Right there, that's all you gotta do. That is my budget presentation for you fine folks tonight.
Any questions for Tim?
Would it make any sense to change our fiscal year end date?
Why?
Just so we don't have that overlap, because like right in the middle of the summer is usually when we're having, with the grants and the road funding, I mean, I don't know how big of a pain in the butt it is to change, or.
It's in the charter, so the charter would have to be amended. And not that we are in a position where we need to do this, but the logical thing to do would move to October 1. That would match the state's fiscal year. And if you're gonna entertain that, you may want to wait till you're in a financial need to do so, because if you think about liquidity of funds and how that looks for auditing purposes and all that stuff. If you were to jump from a July 1 to an October 1, you're gonna be able to capture 90% of 1 year's tax capture in that 3-month period and then start a new fiscal year with a more healthier fund balance and also bank all of that next year's into your budget. So that was a trick that a lot of the counties did back in 15 years ago or so when they had to move their collection dates. Was they shuffled that fiscal year around so that on paper they had a better financial position than a lot of them really did. But, you know, for us, with the scope of our operations right now, I don't think it's terribly relevant.
And wouldn't it be better to do it if we were to do it? When we become a city and we change the
Yeah, I mean,
charter?
if we go down that road, that'd be something the charter commission will
I
certainly
mean,
look
maybe
at.
that'd be the best time is looking for a city,
Yeah,
because you're giving
great point.
what we were in the village, and we change over to the city. That makes more sense to me.
I didn't know, I mean, it's not that big a deal, I understand that, but I mean, if someone's just going through our budget and stuff, like
Yeah.
they have those overlap. Year to pay Paul, like the next year,
Yeah,
it happens.
it does.
And I mean, it probably still happen even if we change the fiscal year a little bit, but. It seems like we're spending most of our money right in the heart of the summer
Yeah.
and with grants and stuff, it just.
Well, it does make sense to go to October with the state's budget, but I think that's a good idea that we.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If and when we change.
It's
It's
really,
really gotta do the charter.
I think the 4 dates really that are most commonly used are January 1st.
Yeah.
March 1st, which is when all the general law villages are. July 1 and then October 1. Those are your 4 fiscal date, you know. I would say that 98% of the units of government of Michigan have one of those 4 fiscal dates, if not 100%, so. And the other thing you gotta think about too, though, is, I think, schools are a July 1 fiscal year. This also runs into your ability to engage auditors based on their workload. So having a fiscal year in July may make you more attractive or less attractive than in October, because then you've got the state and all these other entities too, so. It's all things that certainly can be talked about.
Fair enough.
Any other questions from you about the budget? Any comments that were submitted or anything?
Nope.
Okay. So this is the point of public hearing where community can ask their questions. Anybody? Okay, public comment then is closed, and any other discussions for everybody? Seeing none. Public hearing is closed at 7:43. Darrell will entertain a motion.
Motion to accept.
Motion to accept resolution 2507 made by Laraway. Seconded by Latte. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Cooney,
Yes.
Kiwi,
Yes.
Latte,
Yes.
Laraway,
Yes.
Ferguson.
Yes,
You have 5 yeses and 0 no's, sir.
motion carries. Okay, this is a portion of the meeting for general public comment. Any? Seeing none, we'll go to existing business. Agenda item 9, 24-25 year-end budget amendments. I gotta get to the right page here. Resolution 2025-08.
I don't have anything new that I didn't just talk about.
Yep, it's the same thing, so. Any questions from the council to this? Mr. Wolf or Jessica, who's standing there, sitting there? Side behind the owl, didn't at first, blocked you right out perfectly. Okay, Chair will entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we accept resolution 2025-08. Year-end budget amendments.
Okay.
Second.
Seconded, motion made by Peavy to accept 2025-08 year-end budget amendments. Seconded by Latte. Further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Latte,
Yes.
Evie,
Yes.
Mooney,
Yes.
Laraway,
Yes.
Ferguson.
Yes,
We have 5 yeses and 0 nays, sir.
motion carries. Okay, Mid-Michigan Development Corporation agreements.
Oh, you don't. Two items.
Did I jump to? Oh, I had the wrong check mark, sorry. Cityhood engagement.
Yay.
Here we go.
So, the newsletter that's available on our website and drop into people's mailboxes, the entire inside, really covers. The bigger FAQ points that we have so far, not all of them, we have more available on our website, but these were the big ones that I wanted to start the engagement conversation with and a little bit of a discussion beforehand about it. The little blue box there says that during our July and August village council meetings, there will be opportunities for the community to come and ask questions and engage with the council on this issue. But what I was also hoping would be a plan that the council would endorse. July 15th is when the next regularly scheduled installment of the village council is supposed to be. You may remember the schedule that I had shown you earlier. I'm gonna be gone that week, the week before. What I would recommend is that first community engagement meeting be that night at 7, so the regular council meeting date time, but have it be for the cityhood discussion. Have the regular council meeting the following Tuesday. There are 5 Tuesdays in July. That would give the council the opportunity to review any of the discussion from that first meeting. As well as, any other questions or concerns that have come up. We would drop a second newsletter after that, and then we would also have community meetings the week of August 12th. And then that council meeting on August 19th. And I think at that point in time, we would have a pretty good feel of where we're at. Everyone here knows that we've got to get 100 signatures to move forward. So being able to make that, known to our community, where they can sign, how they can sign. We might circulate petitions, that kind of stuff. But, this would be my thought on how we kick this project off. We've had pretty good success in the past about community open house type meetings, especially if we record them and then put them back up online. And everyone that's come to me about this and said, what are you thinking? Why would you want to do this? And once, we explain to them what the thought process here is, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. We're not looking to do anything drastic and radical. We're really looking at a way, you need to provide more services to our community. And you're contributing taxes to an entity that isn't providing you a ton of services in your community. If we could redirect that, that lessens the burden on you for the services in your community. So. That is the initial plan that I will throw out to you guys tonight. Feedback on.
Well, this is a long process.
It's a very long process because we've got 3 elections in there.
Yeah, you got 3 elections, you got 60 to 220 days.
Yeah.
After you get the petition in,
Yeah.
before you're even scheduled to have anything with the state. And then it's another 45 days after the
Yeah.
state looks at it. Then it's another 60 days or
Yeah.
90 days.
Yeah, this whole phase
I
is
mean,
getting
this is a,
focused on
3-year
getting
thing.
those signatures.
yeah, so this is just the first step.
Yeah.
But that's why we have to find out what the community wants.
Yeah.
Is petition gonna be available for signing during the public meetings?
Absolutely,
Following public.
absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's a good plan, Tim.
I like the July move. Yeah, I can't make the 12th or the 14th meeting, but
So
other than that, I'm good.
we're all busy in the summer. I get it. It's not a problem. I'm actually taking vacation this week, so
I'm gonna do a risk control workshop.
Ireland, Bermuda, Bahamas, where?
Oh, good for you. Cleveland in July.
Nothing fun.
So it's like an interactive risk assessment.
Susquehanna, was that river?
Cuyahoga,
Cuyahoga River that caught on?
big river, keep on burning.
Yeah. I don't, all right, risk management, that's a good place. All right,
Anytime
I
you
like,
go to Ohio, it's risk management.
so I think we should do that then, let's have the regular meeting the 22nd, but have the community open house the 15th. Since there are 5 Tuesdays too, so it works out well.
Well, the community meetings, how will those work?
So basically, pretty similar to what we've done with like the dredging project and the millage before that was. I give a short, try and hit 20-minute presentation, not too long, but really kind of hit the finer points, and then we open up to questions and, that type of engagement and.
Find out what people are thinking.
Yeah.
That makes everybody consensus? We consent with that? We good with that?
And in the past, the councils try to, delegate, 1 or 2 attend, each of the sessions and everybody take a session type deal. just
Yep.
So that there's good representation.
All right. Think that we'll do that, Tim. 15th for the regular meeting and 22nd. I know what I'm trying to say. For the. Here we go. Now. We have the resolution 2509 employee handbook update.
So one of the things the finance committee looked at is staff compensation, and one of the recommendations that they came up with was. The village is unique in terms of. You have 2 employees who are incredibly tenured at 21 and 22 years of service. And trying to do compensation adjustments that don't multiply the base salary that you have after 2 decades of being in an organization. And the finance committee, one of the recommendations they came up with was. Let's get rid of personal days. We trimmed 2 holidays, so it's a loss of 5. But after 15 years, you get an extra week of vacation that you can sell back. So it remains neutral essentially on the day off side of the equation. But that's an extra week you can sell back for non-base tied compensation. It's the way I think I should probably state it. We made a couple other tweaks in there. We upped the buyout if you don't want to take our insurance. I think there's one other one. Oh, in retirement. $100 a month per employee. And then obviously, the other employees have a match option that we would match up to 3%. So.
Any questions for Tim?
Why'd you make it the benchmark at 15 years and not 20 then?
That was their recommendation. Mine was 20. They went 15. And they, 2 of them here tonight, but basically they wanted to do it as a way to maintain an attractive status as an employer.
Yeah.
I was fine at 20. I really was. And that was my recommendation, was to do it at 20.
For the future. For, if we do this now,
Yeah, I was
the
just
next
thinking,
council doesn't have to tussle with it.
right.
That's why we did it, looking ahead. That was our reason.
I get it. Employees you gotta keep up on that stuff or you'll use tenure. It's just how it goes.
Yeah, see what happens. Yeah,
I think the private sector is really outpacing the public sector too, so I support, getting in front of things to keep people around.
So that was the rationale.
You don't want to do a superintendent search?
No.
You know why?
No.
All right. So. What's the council's pleasure? Take a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept that or approve resolution 2509.
Motion made by Latte to resolution to pass 2025-09, seconded by Laraway.
Water.
Any Any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Laraway,
Yes.
Peavy,
Yes.
Latte,
Yes.
Cooney,
Yes.
Ferguson.
Yes.
5 yeas and 0 no's, sir.
Motion carries. Second opportunity for public comment.
No, you gotta go back to the one you wanted to do earlier.
I'm all mixed up.
Yes.
That's right.
Hadn't even been an hour yet.
Where are we?
MMDC agreement. New business
Oh,
number 2.
jeepers.
You already checked it
I
off?
checked it. Yeah, that's why I got confused. I'm
So-
easy to be confused.
Can I ask you which way you voted on that one?
Did we vote?
You did.
Let's run it back on the video.
To quote John Kerry, I was for before I was against it.
Okay. And Mid-Michigan Development Corporation Agreement. That's the one I'm.
So you may remember from a few meetings ago, we talked briefly about this, not briefly, but, with our involvement in the redevelopment ready communities program. And with wanting to better network with our business community about potential investment in our Coldwater business area. Pitched the idea of joining MMDC. It is an $1,800 yearly engagement, which is a very fair price to hand off most of the commercial and industrial economic development activity work. They did offer to come tonight and do a presentation. I said, I think people want to get out of there tonight based on what I've heard, so. It's a great organization. They do a lot of good work. The organization has definitely changed in scope, so. Again, for those who have been around the block for a while, my former village president, George Dunn, was president of MMDC. And, during his tenure at MMDC, the focus of the organization and the focus of economic development at the time was much more centered around industrial projects, you know. Get your tool and dies, get your, your big your big stores, that kind of stuff. And in the 15 to 20 years since, economic development has completely turned in a different direction, and their focus is much more now in business incubation, supporting entrepreneurs, community and placemaking stuff that match up very well with what we do for our economic development theory, which is we want to be the best place to live in Isabella County. You can put a business here, that's great, we'll celebrate that, but our bread and butter is people living in the community. We want you to live here, we want to be a place you want to live, we want to be a place you want to raise a family. We want to be a place where you can have mobility to grow and into bigger homes and downsize when you need to. We just don't want you to leave. And this is a partnership, I think, that works strategically in that direction and also supports our handful of businesses that are eligible for some of the programs that we can do now through like Match on Main because we're in the RRC program. And it is budgeted, so.
Yep. Any questions for Tim? So this agreement is,
Just need a motion to approve it.
right. Because we haven't. We've got it budgeted, but we haven't.
Yeah, we have a budget for the 25-26 fiscal year.
Okay.
I'll make the motion.
Motion carried, made by Laraway to, accept the MMDC agreement, seconded by
I'll second.
Peavy. Further discussion? Since we're spending money, roll call please.
Peavy,
Yes.
Laraway.
Yes.
Cooney.
Yes.
Latte.
Yes.
Ferguson,
Yes.
5-0. And I would like to point out that Mr. Peavy received an award for them last year too.
Yeah, 12-4 plaque.
Participation award.
I don't know.
40 under.
Got a
40.
ribbon?
Oh.
Yeah.
There was an email.
Yeah.
A digital ribbon.
Oh, no, they had a banquet.
Oh.
All right, second opportunity for public comment.
Just a quick question for the
Jeff
MFD.
Gray from,
Want my name and address?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a quick question, the MMDC thing that you guys just approved, is that just an annual contract? So if you don't get out of it where you're expecting, you can step away from that after a year?
yeah, this is
Okay,
termination agreement.
Yeah, that's all I think
Yep. Anyone else?
about.
Okay.
Quiet.
Council comments? Seeing none? Okay, so just don't forget that we're going to have the community participation on the 15th next month and the council meeting on the 22nd. That's it. We stand adjourned.